Welcome to the Aligned Life Podcast by yours truly, Dr. Tiffany. How about we get out that magnifying glass and look at every part of your life? The awesome, the suck, and everything in between. There's so much beauty in you. Stop being afraid of what isn't good enough and let's double down on what is together. It's about your truth in your life, aligned. Hey, welcome back to the Aligned Life Podcast with Dr. Tiffany. Today we have Mariah. She can say her last name. No, I'm just joking.
It's badass, isn't it?
It's badass. Absolutely. Okay, so we started right off the hook. This is going to be edgy. This is going to be sassy. There's going to be no BS in what we talk about. It is totally about success and finding your true self and figuring out how to trust that voice, how to trust the path, how to trust that where you're going is the right place. But first, you have to do the effing work, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You can intro yourself. Can you just talk about your gym and you can talk about your define the fight and all the things, and then we're going to get into the big stuff.
You got it. You got it. So my name is Mariah Prussia. I've been a personal trainer for over 20 years. I do a variety of different things. So when you think of how many hats you have in your closet, I usually have them all on at once. So from personal training, motivational speaking, women's self-defense, to partnering with the Fargo Police Department to work with at-risk youth, as well as an adjunct professor at the university. So teaching self-defense and group exercise leadership there. I do write also for Area Woman Magazine. And I do outdoor boot camps, all that fun stuff, kickboxing, you name it. So for me, it's all about health and wellness and how can we prevent and teach people how to prevent certain components. And then I add now more so than ever is energy work with doing Reiki and intuitive reading. So I don't usually throw that out there. I'm a firm believer that the people that will ask about energy are the ones that I will see. So I'm very protective of my space. Very protective of my space.
I totally love that. So I think anybody who knows you knows you are badass. I mean, if you just look at the Shields commercials and your documentary and you boxing, what? Seriously, totally scares me. So I want to talk about the journey a little bit. I think it's really important to see and to share at least where you came from. And because here's the deal. Anybody listening thinks like, oh, I want to be like Mariah. I wish I had that life. I wish I could do those things. And I believe you can, but you have to do the freaking work. And so I want you to share the work. That's what so many times we don't have an opportunity to share, right? Like how many times did you actually go through the fire? You walked through the fire and you got to the other side and you said, I succeeded. I did that. I can do bigger. I can do better. And I'm going to. So can you just share a little bit of the low points and how you got through that and what's kind of gotten you there?
Well, first and foremost, we don't ever want to be like somebody else. I think that's the key thing to recognize is you have to find your own identity. Far too often we try to live somebody else's identity, and that's not authentic to our true self. So for me, I had no idea. I didn't watch mixed martial arts. I watched some boxing here and there. So yeah, I fight or have fought professionally for MMA, but then also in boxing. So it was something that happened. What I've learned in my life is I've allowed different things to come into my life when they're meant to. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot in every single chapter of my life from, wondering. A lot of people don't recognize is that when you do have a small business, so I own MPX, but when I first opened as a single mother, there's a lot of different things that come into play. Even before I opened my own business, I had my son, Antonio, who's now 15, which is crazy. I was working strictly on commission. So 4 days after having my son, I went back to work. It's not normal for people to go directly back to work, but I was like, I need to figure out a solution. I need to figure out a way to put food on the table. And I brought my son with me. Thankfully, the front desk, they watched him. My clients loved and embraced my son, whether they're on the recumbent bike or while we were training. So I had that option, which was great. But if I didn't have that option, I would have had to shift into a different type of role. So again, it's not always easy, but you do what you have to do during those timeframes. And same with my son. I mean, my second son, Jace is now 9, but at 25 weeks, my water completely broke and I was on bed rest for 44 days in the hospital. He was in the NICU for 47. So during that time frame, I'm trying to figure out, how can I keep my business afloat when I just trained somebody in for 4 days to run my business? So in the hospital, I'm working on my business instead of working in my business, which means now all of my personal training clients are getting trained by other people, which also means there isn't the same income that's coming in.
Yes.
So, I mean, I remember sitting on my bed, like, how in the hell am I going to pay my house payment? How am I going to do that? And by the grace of God, there was a female that was a member of my gym that came in. She brought me a card and I opened up the card because that day I was like, my house payment's due. How am I going to cover this? How am I going to do this? And through the Pay It Forward program with Bell Bank at that point, she gave me $1,000 check, which covered my house payment. And again, allowing the flow to come in. So when people think that being a business owner is easy, they don't see the things behind the scene. You pay every single person before you pay yourself. So as a single parent, I remember moments of going through the checkout line at the grocery store and like counting in my head, I should be good on the amount that I have on my card. Okay, I have $36.22 in my account. And when you're a public figure, it's really extremely embarrassing to be that person that's like, okay, I might have to take one thing off the conveyor belt because I don't have enough on my card to cover that loaf of bread or to cover that whatnot. So, they only see the highlight reels when it comes to life. And there's a lot of lowlights. So from going through a domestic relationship to doing it all on your own, when people say, oh my gosh, my life is so busy, I just take a step back and I'm like, do you understand what busy means? And I've actually started to change that term from busy to productive. You can be busy wasting time on social media, or you can be productive and actually utilize your time. So where do you choose to put your time? So, it's with the kids, right? It's a balance. And then when I started fighting, it's a balance. Most people don't realize I started training in February of 2013. And then I had already they booked me for my first professional fight in October of the same year. It's not common. It's not normal where most people do amateur. I went strictly pro. But at that point, being age 36, I'm like, all right, this isn't something that's going to be a lifelong dream. Like, I'm not a spring chicken. If I'm going to do this, I need to get out of the hen house here and start getting ready to move. But during that time frame, in June of the same year, I completely tore my Achilles tendon. I had surgery. The next day, I went back to training on one leg. I taught kickboxing with sticking my knee on the walker. I had the brakes on and pushed through. And it got closer and closer to my fight date where my coach or my trainer at that point goes, Mariah, you're still limping, because I had to retrain myself how to walk. I mean, I strapped my walker to my push mower so that I could get that done. I would sit my 1.5-year-old on there scooting and putting him into his crib, so on and so forth, where it's like, you just do. You don't think, you just do because it has to be done. And I didn't want people to do things for me. So yeah, before my very first fight, I was still limping. My coach goes, Mariah, he goes, I don't think you should take this fight. And I said, why? Because it's not like team sports, Mariah. Yes, you played 3 sports in college, but this is an individual sport. So once you get in the cage, they're going to lock the cage and, you're going to be in there and the last one basically standing until somebody wins. He's like, and if you lose your first fight, you're less apt to fight again because you'll feel self-defeated. Well, I said, I understand your point of view, but when I commit to something, I'm going to follow through with it. So whether you want to coach me or not, that's up to you. But I will be fighting on October 26th with or without you. He cornered me. I, hid my limp from the ring doctor, fought, thankfully won, but it comes down to mindset. It comes to perseverance. And if you want something bad enough, you're going to do it, or you're going to make an excuse not to do it. It's factual. So, I just don't have a lot of time in life. I'm here one lifetime. None of us are immortal. And what I want to find is my full potential, because most of the untapped wealth is found in the cemetery. Unwritten books, whether it's movies, whether it's inventions, whether it's all of these other different things. I want to know that on my headstone, it says she found her full potential. That's it, man. I went on my spiel, but it's probably the hardest thing for me is when I work with individuals. My goal is to empower, educate, and enhance and teach people how to define the fight. Like, what is your fight? Is it nutrition? Is it fitness? Is it schedule? Is it life's traumas? Is it personal? Is it professional? What is that fight? And are you fighting for it or are you fighting against it? So only you can define that. So let's work through that fight so that you can get to the next level. And there's always going to be another fight. And fighting isn't bad. Fighting just is.
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting how many, like, as you were talking, how many people's wheels I could just see, right? Like how many excuses pop up of like, well, you don't know what my life is like. You don't understand how busy I am. You don't understand my marriage. You don't,
Right.
fight? What do you mean? That sounds so bad. That sounds so negative. And now all of a sudden we're living this life that is positive freaking Polly. I've talked about this so many times because we always have an equal balance of support and challenge in life. And we need to recognize both of them, right? Mm-hmm. So if all of a sudden all you see is positive Polybill, support, but you've been squashing this down because you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with that negative. I don't want to deal with that snotty lady. I don't want to deal with that guy who keeps yelling at me. And all of a sudden that keeps shoving down. Oh, we're not going to ever balance. Eventually that thing is just going to take us over, right? And now we don't know how to handle it because we haven't been able to see this challenge continues to move us forward as much as the support does. So how can we shift our mindset? And then how can we do the freaking work? I always say action erases anxiety. I'm sure in your line of work, the majority of women you work with, maybe in the beginning, have, quote, anxiety, whether they're medicated, whether it's self-diagnosed, whether whatever, they're always panicky and they're always, we got a problem with anxiety. Well, do the work, right?
Yeah.
To start to see where you can go. And then once you believe that, you continue to move.
Well, and it's also about the importance of breath. If you're not doing breath work, you're going to stay in that anxiety. So it's just taking a deep breath, literally. So I do a lot of box breathing. I incorporate that every morning. I've got different rituals that I do, and it's finding that sense of calm because there is chaos. And our thoughts become emotions, our emotions become behaviors. So when we learn how to interdict and cut off some of the different things that start coming in from those thoughts and redirect them into a different fashion, that's really when things start to shift, right? So, and judgment. I think we can both agree right now that the world is so compiled, or, it's full of judgment.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we're our worst judge of ourselves, but now are you allowing that to carry into your other life, which now is adding in more anxiety? Mm-hmm. So it's, again, we have different stories, we have different spots, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. That's you, that's your story. This is my story, and that's okay, but it's taking ownership of it. And if you aren't creating change, how do you expect to have change if you're not taking action?
Yes.
You can sit and dwell, right? And if you want to stay in that pool, you're just not going to be able to get into the blue ocean, right? So make a choice.
You just can't expect anything different, right? So I think there's a realistic expectation that happens too.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, because I've known you for 15 years and that's a long freaking time, by the way. We've only been in Fargo for 15 and a half years. Crazy. I've always known of you as Ironclad Mindset. I mean, really, like tough as hell, tough as nails, all the things. So can we talk about your last Navy SEALs, whatever this is? I want to know about, like, I have a book behind me on Navy SEALs. I've read a ton on them. Mm-hmm. I attract a lot of people with strong mindsets and that they are doing a lot of the SEALs work. So can you just talk about, first of all, how you allowed this part of your journey to just be, and then like what you've done as of late and then what's to come.
Yeah, you bet. So for me, I'm always looking for something. And I feel like a lot of people during COVID have either felt like they're lost, that they're missing something, or there's got to be something more. And I think being in that energy and being in that space, it allowed me the opportunity to research what I really wanted. And I invest a lot of time, a lot of energy into other individuals. And where I would look at my investment in myself is my physical well-being, the foods that I eat, but I needed something more. It was time for me to find a coach. All entrepreneurs that are in great spots have coaches, right? So some trainers, some personal trainers have trainers. So it's like sometimes you have to get out of your mindset. Same with like cooks or chefs. Sometimes they want somebody else to cook for them because they're cooking for everybody else. So I've always loved the military style. I wanted to go into the military when I was younger, but I chose a different direction. And with teaching self-defense and doing all the different things with combatives, that energy resonates with me. I was always coached where it was a dictator kind of mindset, and that worked for me. Tell me what I'm doing wrong, tell me what I need to do right, and I'll do it. I don't need coddling. I never have needed to be coddled. It doesn't work for me. And everybody's different. So I researched and I did a crucible. So it's like, all right, most people train for however many months. I trained for about a month and a half to do a 12-hour crucible.
Oh my God.
Well, I looked at it. I'm like, well, here we go. Let's go. So I was the only female in that crucible. So it was 12 hours straight through. And I'm looking at all the guys that are there, and I was talking to one of the boxers that is going to be pro, to former military, to individuals in different areas of life. And then there's some business people that are doing it to push themselves. And it was really an eye-opening experience, not from the physical mountain, but from the mental mountain, and how they utilize their words to engage you to get out of what pain you may or may not be feeling, and utilizing it from a team perspective to build your team. And that was huge because I love working with a team. And I mean, I would say probably the hardest challenge was it was 30 some degrees in California. It was overcast, it was windy, and to be wet for 12 hours, I've never been so cold in my life, where literally I'm standing next to all of the guys, and what we're trying to do for body heat is touch each other's forearms. So we have skin to skin contact to try to warm up. So imagine shivering or standing outside in the winter, completely wet and shivering for 12 hours. So what I didn't recognize is in those 12 hours, he was like, well, you can look at it this, you're burning roughly 1,000 calories per hour during that training, because your body is also, you look at what's going on. So, I mean, we went through different components of diving in head first into the ice baths multiple times, to instantly going into boot camp into the mud. If somebody messed up, you're back into the ice bath. It's like there's discipline for everything. And if you're not helping your teammate, you're getting disciplined. So again, it's all about the unity of helping everyone to be successful. So from that to learning how to carry people on stretchers and protect the wounded. So you keep your eye on a swivel, which I already do with self-defense and teaching people situational awareness. So they're talking about the horizon and making sure that you're always looking left, looking right, sometimes looking behind, just to make sure you're aware of your surroundings. But I mean, it was great. We were going up and down hills, rucking. So you have a 40-pound backpack on, plus you're carrying somebody in a stretcher up mountains. So we did that for roughly however many hours. It was great. I mean, it was such a team building experience, and my knees were so swollen, but it was from hitting the diving in head first and hitting my knees on the tub. That they look like huge balloons. There were moments where I wanted to quit, which was coming out of actually eating lunch, where we had MREs, which are military food. And then it's like, after that, it's Mariah, you've already completed half of it. What the hell? Let's go. You're going to go into the Murph, which is a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then another mile run, right? That was just a small piece of the 12-hour component. But it made me realize that I have so much more potential. And I was able to assist guys in pull-ups. So that was awesome. So towards the end, I mean, you're freezing and you're trying to do pull-ups, right? You literally just come out of the ice bath and you're doing pull-ups. So, the guys assisted me towards the back half of the Murph where I assisted them as well. And it was great because they viewed me as Mariah. They didn't view me as female or whatnot. They viewed me as a person. And that was probably the coolest experience because I was just as encouraging to every single one of them. Let's go. Straight line, right foot, boom. And so now we're moving forward. And now my goal is doing the 50-hour Crucible, which is 50 hours straight, where I believe, if memory serves me right, that only one female has ever successfully completed it. And then when you look at the success rate, male or female, it's 30%, which is awesome. It's like, all right, put the carrot in front of me, man. Put the carrot. So you're telling me there's a chance.
That is a quotable.
Yep. So it's like, all right, so you're dangling. So for me, I don't gravitate towards something that's easy.
Right.
I never have. If it is the most challenging thing, and if somebody tells me that I can't do it, I'm going to dive headfirst into it, just so that I can set the record straight that the mind is everything. Your body is your mind, and your mind is your body.
Uh-huh.
And most people don't recognize that. So, yeah, I mean, we learned a lot. And then, the next week I went back for resiliency training and we did a 6-minute plank, and you can always do one more. So there's another minute. You can always do another one. So we just kept going and cheering each other on. 64 minutes and 50 seconds later from doing a plank, we were finally able to drop to our knees.
What?
So again, it was like focusing.
Focusing.
So when you start pushing yourself, if you don't try, you don't know. And if you already tell yourself that, 2 minutes, I can't do 2 minutes, you're never going to do 2 minutes. And if you say, I'm going to try, you already failed.
Yep.
Just do. The trying is allowing your brain to have an scapegoat. It really is. So I'm over the trying. I'm just into the doing.
Yeah. And it's interesting because obviously being a chiropractor and in my coaching and mentoring, the time I spend the most on is how do we retrain the subconscious of what it's already learned from what you've already told it to do and to be and all these things, right? So when we start to add in different habits, when we start to think differently, when we start to value different things, when we start to have boundaries, all the things, our body's going to try to hijack our mind because it does not know this new space.
Right.
And then we give in. That's when we give in, is when that body says, "Oh, this is really uncomfortable. I don't know. I don't know if you're safe anymore. I don't know if you should keep going. Quit." Bam. No, that's just the body trying to hijack the mind because it has never known this before. We have to continue to train it for excellence. That's why I love you.
Well, but people allow it to happen. They allow it, or identifying pain. What is pain? Is pain actually completing the hour, or is it actually a physical injury? Or are you attributing, okay, well, I know that I have knee pain, or I know that I have a knee issue. Are you pushing pain there when there really isn't pain? Are you using it as a cop-out or using it in that component? There's a difference, right? It's factual, right? If you have an injury, you don't want to be pushing through and causing more harm than good. You want to progress, not regress. Mm-hmm. But the key thing is, it's far too often, again, like you said, the mindset is trained. Well, I have this injury, or I have this, or all of these different limitations. Well, I can tell you one thing is I subbed for a class here and I took them through performance standard testing. And some of the women are there in their 50s, they're in their 60s, and they had no clue that, yes, running a mile was going to be part of it. And two of the ladies, when we were all done, so we did push-ups, we did planks, we did all of these different components added in, and we finished with a mile. You should have seen the face, the empowerment, the energy, and how it shifted where, Mariah, I've never ran a mile, like completely straight through. Two of them. And the next day, what were they doing? They were running on the treadmill.
Yep.
So why do we set our own limitations? When we look at when we were kids, what did we do for fun? We did so many different components. Then why did you stop? Why did you stop doing those things? No one said, Tiffany, you need to stop skipping. No one said that. You just chose not to do it. You chose not to have fun. But now it's like, holy hell, I'm going to be 44. And I'm like, I'm freaking skipping, I'm jumping, I'm doing whatever. And it's like, Well, you're in your 40s. You shouldn't do that.
Huh?
Says who? I shouldn't box because I'm a female? Says who? Don't care. Don't care. I am going to do what resonates with me. And again, it's perseverance. And that's the key, is we have to persevere. And if you say that you're a warrior, if you're saying you're this, you're saying you're that, are your actions matching up with your words? Because if they're not, then you need to start looking at, how can I create change? How do I shift that mindset? And it starts with you. No one else can do the work for you. Everybody wants a handout, but it's not going to happen. You got to be the hand up for yourself.
I hope you're enjoying this week's episode. So, where are my ladies at? Are you ready to spend time on who you are underneath that beautiful mess? Are you sick of showing up feeling like, if everyone knew who I really was, I wouldn't be this awesome? If everyone knew how stressed I was, if everyone knew the struggles, if everyone knew how imperfect I am, my life is, and inside my four walls are, they wouldn't think I was as awesome. I'm talking to you because you have a spark in you. You know how you're showing up today is not the person that you know you are. We're meant to achieve big things. We're meant to make an impact beyond what we even think is possible. And with that, we're meant to live a life of freedom. Running two successful businesses with my family by my side, I want to show you the path, and I want to show you that it's possible. Decide today that the most meaningful work you can do is on you. Look into, get into, dive into the Unleashed Life mentoring program. I'm a life and business strategist, a life and business mentor, and I want to help you become who you know you are. Yet you're scared, you're afraid, but without taking that step, you aren't going to achieve the life that you dream of. So join us. Join us in the Unleashed Life program. So what happens when you're stuck? What does your stuck look like, I should say? And I know it's all relative because everybody has their own stuck.
What is stuck? When I look at my schedule, when I look at my life, I really don't have a lot of time to be stuck. So it's, all right, so what is this? I am a person that works very quickly through problem solving because I've had to. So I don't stay on the X for very long. I get off the X. Yep. And I work through the emotion of, so why am I feeling this? Is this something that was projected onto me? Is this something that I projected onto somebody else? What is that space? So it's a lot of self-reflection. That's where I go if I'm feeling in that stuck spot, because the thing is, I don't want to be there long. I work with a lot of different people, and I don't want to have anything that I'm stuck on or energy wise transfer onto other individuals. So it's like, okay, so what do you need to do? All right, own that shit, get over it, get done, right? Address the emotion, identify like, okay, I feel you, man. All right. Yep. Why am I feeling you? All right, so let's work through it. And then I can, slap the emotion a high five and call it a good day. So
yep. Thanks for talking to me, honey.
Well, but it's like, what is stuck, right? I've been stuck in the mud, and cow manure, like helping, carry bales and feed buckets, living on a farm. But what is stuck? Stuck is a choice.
I 100% agree with you. That's why you are here. Okay. I've always said the X factor for me personally, and for people's miracles that I see every day, is intuition. So can we talk about it? Can we talk about you? When I say ironclad mindset, most of the time someone goes into like straight masculine push. Well, you have a very balanced approach with intuition, being guided, all the stuff, right? Like, I don't really know what's next. Well, yes, I do, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. I just trust that this path will take me there. So I need to continue to say yes to the things that pop up. Can we talk about this? Can we talk about this X factor? Because I believe without it, we cannot go many places if we're not connected.
So intuition, there's so many different types of intuition. So we have the type of intuition where something doesn't feel right, right? So whether it's you're walking by a stranger, your hair stands up on your arms, understanding and identifying that this situation doesn't feel safe. So that's one type of intuition. The other type of intuition is when you're looking at the fact of, okay, intuitively, I can feel I need change. Intuitively, I know that there's something more, like my mission isn't quite complete, or my mission is going to shift. And I think what's going on right now is a lot of people aren't using their intuition. They're hanging on to their old identity that no longer suits them. So whether it's a role, whether it's this, whether it's an emotion, and learning how to identify what those are, use your intuition. Okay, let it go and follow and allow things to flow instead of fighting it constantly. So if you see a sign of like, something happened like 3 different times, there's a reason. It's a message. Listen to it. Intuitively, for me, I would say, like, when it comes to my intuition, it's more so, I'd say one of my gifts. I would never say power. And, if somebody says intuition and power, take a step back and understand that that individual hasn't necessarily connected with what is intuition and why do we have it. It's not for power, right? So power is a very strong word. Gift. We're all intuitive. I just don't feel that everybody has necessarily tapped into some of those strengths yet because they've been so clouded with life, right? Mm-hmm. They're the hamster in the wheel, or you haven't worked through past trauma. Mm-hmm. So when we speak intuition, my intuition started to open after I released the emotions from my unhealthy relationship. And then it was like doors started to open. And then connectability, being able to feel where people are at in their space when they come in. So, think if you're not sure what intuition is, read on it, but breathe, meditate, and just allow those things to come in. I think for intuition, a lot of individuals have a lot of self-doubt. Well, is that what I'm actually seeing? Is that correct? Is that not correct? That's your ego. So your ego is inhibiting your intuition. So if you're seeing things, write it down. In those when you're taking, whether it's 20 minutes of breathing or 20 minutes of meditation, all of those different components, listen and just take notes. And then, okay, well, this animal appeared when I was in meditation. Google the spiritual meaning behind that animal. Mm-hmm. Or look up, what is the definition of that animal? Or think about, well, wow, I used to have that as a stuffed animal when I was younger. So it's coming to me. So maybe in my childhood, there is something that is maybe unresolved, or there's a message from when I was a child that I need to incorporate as an adult. So intuition is different to everybody, but yet it's the same.
Mm-hmm. I totally love that. I was just talking to somebody was it yesterday or the day before, and they were asking, obviously when I adjust, I'm 100% intuitively led. And then, so they asked me about real life, like, how do you lead like that? How do you get the messages? How do you hear them? How do you see them? I'm like, well, it is different for everybody. A quiet brain is the only way that you're going to sense anything coming through, no matter how they show up, whether it's in signs and colors and messages and feels. And it's typically second or third little tap, 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 the nudge, the like, I wonder, like as soon as it's like,
right.
It's interrupting our busy life and you're noticing it. That is intuition. Mm-hmm. And we confuse fear and ego, those things, with the messages. Well, fear and ego come out loud and hard and threat-like and like, well, you got to do this or else. That's not intuition then.
No,
right?
No.
That's not like, it's the ever opening, ever loving voice that can be our guide, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like so many are missing the guidepost. If we don't have a guidepost, we don't know where the heck we're going.
Right. And that's exactly it. It's just listening. Yeah. Listening and allowing and not living in fear. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing that I see right now is fear. Everything is fear driven instead of faith driven. Right. So no matter whatever your faith may or may not be, whether it's God, whether it's spiritual guides, angels, so on and so forth, it's irrelevant, right? It's whatever resonates with you. But to have faith in something in a higher power than yourself, mm-hmm. and allow life to happen. We're only here one time. So if we live in fear, are you actually living? Mm-hmm. I refuse to live in fear. At one point when I was younger, did I fear death? 100%. When my kids were really young, did I fear losing my kids? I did. But then I started switching my mindset, like, Mariah, don't manifest negative energy towards death. Death is death. And if you are doing your absolute best to love, to teach, and to protect your children and yourself, whatever life brings into play is going to happen. There's a plan. And we can't control those things. But what we can control is living in the present and being loving to other individuals. I mean, we had an individual in the Reiki world, in massage world, right, that passed away out of the blue last week and is at the age of 40. So we don't know what tomorrow brings. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So what the media and what everything is going on in life right now, people are becoming so consumed that they're living out of anger, they're living out of angst, they're living out of fear, they're living out of hate, instead of living in love, compassion, and purpose. So as individuals, the only way that we can create change is by creating change within ourselves and then taking that mission and moving it forward into others.
100%. Okay. Can you tell people how they can access you?
Access me. Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. I have no time, she says.
Well, I don't have keys that I'm going to hand out to everybody.
How can they work with you? How can they buy your book? How can they follow you?
Absolutely. So mariahprussia.com is my website. I have a couple different Instagrams. So one is Mariah Prussia. One is Mariah MPX Prussia. Yeah, I know I go around the board. Facebook, my athlete page is Mariah MPX Prussia. So pretty much my name. You can find me. Look it up. But the key thing is
Define the Fight apparel and is that all on that website, mariahprussia.com?
It is, but I created a new logo that I actually was in my bathtub and the logo came to me and I had an individual work with it. So I'm a Leo, I'm a lion, but I'm very fixated on lions and lioness and so on and so forth. So I have it as a half lion, half lioness. And the reason why I have the head like that is because the lionesses are actually the hunters and the males are the protectors. And I view myself as both as a single mother. So I'm the protector, I'm the hunter, the whatnot, plus with very masculine and, kind of some feminine energy in there. It's important to understand that we can be more than what we are brought up to be. So that's where the Define the Fight comes in. So whether it's like we spoke about defining the fight in your life, and different apparel is coming out. So I have a couple things that are on there, but I have new things that will be on the horizon.
I love that. I so love I just don't think people challenge their thoughts enough to then believe that they can do that thing. Like they don't want to go there because they have whatever their past has detailed up to this point is what they believe to be true. And it's not. It's not.
It's mind limitations is what it is.
It's so much. Yeah. I just wish everybody, I think the same when you're training people and working with people one-on-one, I think the same when they're on the table or when I'm coaching and mentoring, like, I see this beauty and this needs to come out to the world and we need courage and we need a mentor and a coach, somebody that can continually say, we can be more, we can do more. When you want more, there is more to be had. And I want you to encourage you, Mariah, just to keep your voice loud.
Thank you.
Because we're in a world of fear and fear is now overcoming our cells and our body cells and our life. And now we are a total prisoner to these four walls that we're in. And people are struggling. People are miserable. People are scared. So we need loud voices to come out.
Well, and I think with the self-defense component too, knowledge is power because it is, right? And it also helps with that fear factor and with all of the different uncertainty things that are going on. Learn how to protect yourself.
Yeah.
If your fear is to go outside, if it's, and those are things that I teach, whether it's to corporations, to small groups or individuals where I set up a time frame, learn. And I can't stress that enough, especially for women and for their daughters. I've worked with kids very, very young, and to see that sense of empowerment and to go through different triggers that they may have had or experienced in the past, we talk about that. At least 20% of the people every single seminar have either experienced sexual assault, rape, or some type of trauma. And it helps work through some of those things. We talk about it. And that's the best way to do it. Is you can only bury things so long until the wind blows the soil wide open, and then it starts surfacing. So do the work. It's worth it. It sucks doing the dirt dive, but your life is so much more and worth so much more than if you are living in restraints.
Yeah. Shackles, right? Like being tied to something other than what you know where you can go. So
exactly.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you for your time. I know you are busy. You have a big mission, and I and everyone else really appreciate you sharing your story. And I think the encouragement, guys, for everybody who is listening, guys, gals, whatever, you know what I mean.
Who cares? People.
Who cares? People. Humans. Find people that you can follow every day, because sometimes that's all you need. You just need a hook to put your hat on. You need somebody that is thinking differently, thinking beyond your fear and all the crap going on in your life, to be like, maybe there is more. And that's your purpose, Mariah, like to continue to be that loud voice so you can be a hook for someone to put their hat on. And that's how we change life, right?
One life at a time, man.
One life at a time, baby.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything that you do. I appreciate you. And I know our community does as well.
Thank you. Thank you for listening and following the Aligned Life podcast with Dr. Tiffany. If you love this and can think of anyone who needs to hear about it, would you mind sharing with them? Find me online at drtiffanyjohnson.com, where you can find out more about my memberships, courses, mentoring, and any upcoming events. To learn more about chiropractic for you and your family, go to htchiro.com and follow our social pages. I can't wait to connect with you soon, and until then, be you, be aligned.